Hi, in this video I want to show you one of the most useful things that you can do in Lightroom, and that is to sync your settings. You can do a couple other things here with presets that are related, but syncing settings is one of the most powerful things that you really should know about in Lightroom, and I think I've mentioned it, but in case I haven't, I wanted to make a special video just about syncing your files. This is not about syncing folders. This is a development strategy. So let's just take a look here, and I'll give you an idea what this is about. So let's go into grid view. Now for me, when I'm out photographing birds, if I find something that I'm really intrigued with, I'm very apt to take, as you can see with this raven here at Abbott's Lagoon, I'm apt to take quite a few photos. And this is actually not even as excessive as I can be, but there are about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, there's about 50 or 60 photos here. And to go through each one of them and develop them individually is a pain. Well, this is what Lightroom is all about. And this is really useful if you're doing, say, you're a portrait photographer and you take 100 photos in the studio. As long as they're all exposed approximately the same way, or even ideally exactly the same way, and they're in the same light, you can actually use the same settings on all of them. And there's a couple of different ways to do that. Okay, well, let's go to develop, and let's just make some adjustments to this very first raven here, and then I'll show you a few of the different options that you have for carrying those on to somewhere else. Now you need to start in development, and let's just go ahead and make some adjustments. Now I can see from the histogram that this is looking pretty good, so I know that this is a photo that really can be developed. I'm going to start up at the top, and I'm going to go ahead and do my square cropping, and you notice I don't have to crop a whole lot because I was fairly close to him, and that's good. So I'm just going to put him right in the middle like that. So then the next thing I'm going to go down to, I'm going to take a look at the temperature. Now it was a very cloudy day, so this temp's probably right, but I might want to warm it up just a little bit so he doesn't feel quite so cold. I'm going to definitely bring the exposure up a bit, and I don't usually use the contrast. You know that because I like to use these. I'm not going to worry about the highlights, but I'm going to bring the shadows up quite a bit so we can see those details. I won't worry about the whites. Well, actually the whites should come up just a touch, but I might come back to that. Bring the blacks down, bring the texture up for sure, the clarity up, and we don't need the dehaze. I'll do one other thing, and that is I'll go ahead and go all the way down and just put a little vignette on it. Okay, so those were some basic things. If I wanted to go and do those individually to every single photo here, it would be an awful lot of work. So let me show you 3 different ways that you can carry those strategies on. So I'm going to show you one of the simplest ways to do this. If you're just working with a few images or you just want to carry it over, there's a very quick way to work with this, and that would be, since we've gotten this developed the way we want it, is to come over here to the left side. Remember, this is in the develop panel, and copy, and you notice that this big setting comes up and all the settings are on here. Now you don't have to copy everything, but for this one I'm going to assume I am. Notice that you can check none and then pick and choose, or you can check all and just grab everything. For now I'm going to grab everything, and I'm going to copy it, and then I'm just going to go to the next image and paste it. And you can see it pastes it right in. Now one of the tricks with this, especially when you're not on a tripod like me, is the cropping often will have to be adjusted, but that's a fairly easy thing just to move that over as long as the framing is very similar. So that's a quick way just to take it to one other image. I mean, I could continue down the line and just keep pasting and pasting, but I want to show you a little bit more expedient strategy, and that is to use the sync settings. So I'm going to go ahead and start from this second image that I already did. There we go. And because I put the same settings on him, I can just continue down. So this is the first image that I selected, and I'm going to select the next one and the next 3. Now watch what happens here, because of course The three images after that are not exposed the same way. So we'll go ahead and sync it though, and we'll sync everything. And so you can see that the next image is great because it was exposed the same way. But when we go on to the next one, the exposure is not quite right. Now, I sometimes still do it this way because, and we'll go ahead and take these guys out, because it's only the exposure that's really off. And so all I have to do is bring that down a little bit, and now I have a sync that I could take out really to this entire set. Here, let me show you in Develop, and then let me show you in Settings. So in Develop, you need to use this little bar down here. The image is going to be copied from whichever was the first image that you selected. That is the settings that it's going to use. Click here and sync. And it's going to sync all of those images to that new one. And because those were actually all exposed very much the same, I'll go ahead and show you these. You can see that those all look pretty darn good. I can still go in and make individual changes, but this gives me a great starting point. And I could have gone down to the whole thing. I think I meant to do that, but we can start from anywhere. We can just start here and go all the way down. Now, notice there's a lot of these that are actually closer, and so they're not going to crop quite right, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and do it, and then I'll be able to correct it. So notice right now I'm in the library. If you come over here to the right, you can do the sync metadata, but that's not what we want. That's metadata. But over here, you can sync the settings, and it works exactly the same way. And that's sometimes handy to do it in library because you can really look ahead and see all of the images that need to be reset. Now you'll see that the ones that were closer up are going to need some adjustment. So you might go to them individually. You might grab one that you can recrop and then paste that in. There's all sorts of different ways that you can do this. But you still have the freedom, of course, to go into individual ones. Oops, I missed, oh, there. I missed a few. Sometimes it takes it a second to pop them all in. It has to work pretty hard. Now remember that the first image is the one that is going to make the setting. So for instance, if I decided I wanted to do a black and white adjustment, and we'll go ahead and do this in Develop. So let's say I wanted to make a black and white adjustment. I'll just change that there. And I decide, well, I don't really want the ones in ahead of it, but I want the ones behind it. I want to backtrack. Well, let's just see how far back we want to backtrack. As long as that's the first one you selected, you can backtrack as far as you want, and you can go ahead, and I don't want to go all the way back to those first ones because the exposure was a little different, although there is a way to, let's actually go ahead and show you that. I'll go all the way back to the first. And notice if we sync settings this time, I know that the exposure was different. So I can just go in and just take the exposure out. So it won't change that. It'll change just everything to black and white, but it won't bother with changing the exposures. And those look really good. And again, it's going to take it a while. So I started with the one down below. As long as that's the first one I picked, I can come up to the top. Okay. So any of these strategies you can do then the copy and paste, and you can copy and paste to anywhere, by the way. If I copy the settings, we'll just go ahead and do this one. Oh, I love that image. He's just such a character. If I copy it here, right, and I'll go ahead and check all, I'll just grab everything again. I could actually go into the library, go back into these folders, and I could just pick this image. This isn't even my image, but that's okay. And go to Develop and Paste. And it's going to paste those settings right into that photo in another folder. Okay, I'm going to undo that since that's not actually what I wanted to do and not even my photo. And let's go back to library. I want to show you one other way that you can work. So I'll go back to those ravens and show you one more strategy. So let's go ahead and pick this first guy again, or actually let's pick this guy just because he's so hilarious. I really like him. And let's say we want to do a little bit more work on him. We want to, I think I'm going to take the exposure down a little bit, maybe take the shadows up, take the clarity up quite a bit. And I'm going to leave it on black and white, but I want to play with the shadows, which I'm going to make very cold. I'll leave the mid-tone sort of neutral, just a little bit, and I'm going to make the highlights super warm. Oh, that's maybe a little bit intense, but I like it. And now that I've gone in there, I think I do want to bring those shadows up just a little bit more. Maybe push it up on the exposure again. So I've got a lot going on here. I think I'll go ahead and make a heavier vignette. And I'm also going to put some grain on it here. I'll zoom in so you can see that. I think that just makes it cool. So I created this kind of specialty effect. And I could copy and paste it, but as soon as I go on to do another task and I copy something else, it's not going to save that. So what I'd like to do, because I really like the way this looks, is I'm thinking, wow, it'd be cool to save that and be able to use it maybe with other Raven photos, but maybe with other photos entirely. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go over to the presets. Now, I know I've probably shown you presets before. These are the preloaded presets. These are sort of canned presets. And it's kind of a nice feature because as you scroll through, you could see these things. But what I want to do is instead of using one of those, I'll close these up because we're not going to use those, is I want to use I want to add this to user presets. So I'm going to just click the plus button and I'm going to say create preset. Because I'm on that image, it actually knows that I want to use the image. I want to use the settings that I have on this particular image, and I'm going to call it Raven at Abbott's. I could call it almost anything else, but I'm just going to, just so I remember where I originally did this, and I'm going to go ahead and make that a little tidier. And I actually don't think I need to use the underlines, but that's kind of automatic with me. You don't put cropping into these, which is really, I was making sure and checking. I think I'll leave everything else in. I definitely want the grain. Don't need to transform. I didn't do it, but that's okay. I'll just leave it there. All the rest of these can stay on. And I'm going to create it. And notice that it drops in right here, Raven at Abbott's. There's an earlier Raven I did, which is a little different. So you can see, I think I like this second Raven better. I have a couple other presets that I use for different things. May or may not work with this, but this is the Raven at Abbott's. So then I'll go back to my library and we'll try it on some of the other ones, but let's just try it on one of these guys because we have other Ravens in here. So I can click on this guy. This is a Raven at Ocean Beach in San Francisco, and I'll go to develop, and I'll go ahead and pick that same thing, that Raven at Abbott's, and you can see we got that same kind of effect. Now, what you'll notice is that because the light's different, because the exposure, mostly because of the light, we might need to actually change around a little bit, bring the exposure up, bring the highlights down, just adjust it a little bit, but we have those same basic color settings. Okay, so there you go. 3 ways to help you work a little bit more efficiently in Lightroom. The first way is just by doing copy and paste, which is down here. The second way is by using, and we'll just go ahead and play with this. Even if you've done a preset, you can use the syncing. So remember, with the syncing, you can actually do sync here from the develop window. And it's going to come up and let you choose if you don't want to do everything. This window will have the crop, so I'm going to take that off. Sometimes I leave it on. And you can see that brings it all in. I do like that preset. And then if you wanted to, you could also do it, and I'll go ahead and grab one over here so we can see the opposite. Oops, I'm just going to grab that one that hasn't been developed. So let's continue. Lightroom got a little glitchy on me and I had to shut down and start again. It's sometimes hard to know if it's a glitch or if it's you, but when in doubt, sometimes you can just restart. Okay, so I just wanted to remind you of some of the other options you have for how to work with this. So remember that you can actually go to develop, and I'm just going to do this so you can see the other way. I can copy, and I'm going to copy everything except the crop, and I can go way down the line and I can paste it here. Now once I have that pasted, just a reminder that if you want to use that more group sync, you can do it from the develop panel, but you can also do it from here, and you can also go backwards. So you can even be selective. Let's say I like that. As long as I want the settings of the first image I chose, I can actually just do a command and just select before and after. I can select these different images that I might want to sync. Remember, if you're in the library module, you don't want to sync metadata. I'll show you what that's going to give you. This is literally syncing the metadata. We don't want that, so we'll cancel out of that. You want to sync the settings. We'll take the crop off, synchronize, and you'll see that it's going to synchronize only the ones that were selected, and it'll synchronize it from here. So many cool things that you can do with Lightroom. I'll go ahead and leave you with that final image. Needs a little bit of cleaning up, but I'm kind of happy with it.